Hi guys, this is Joel, thanks for watching. So I've developed a LUT for the A7S III that emulates the look of the Alexa709 LUT. To me, Arri cameras still have the best colour science in the world, and if you want to squeeze every last drop of potential out of your A7S III, I say emulating the Alexa is the way to go. As you can see here, I'm contrasting my LUT with the latest Sony LUT, whose white balance and tint I found to be very off in relation to the Arri. The Sony LUT also renders skin tones very sickly and greenish yellow, with a real lack of natural colour and life. I know the S709 LUT wasn't made to match the Arri, but felt it'd be an interesting comparison to make, and given that Arris are very accurate, clean and neutral with their white balance and colour reproduction, it's interesting to see how far off the Sony LUT is in comparison. Now, will this turn your A7S III into an Alexa? Well no, of course not, as they have two totally different sensors. As an illustration, imagine two archers shooting arrows at targets while both jumping on trampolines. The Alexa look, or target, is fixed in place, but the two camera sensors are not, because they simply see the world a little bit differently. As such, a perfect 100% match with different sensors is simply impossible. This isn't a limitation of my LUT, this is a limitation of all LUTs due to their inflexible linear nature. Once that arrow is set loose, there's no changing its flight path. Having said that, my emulation method delivers a look that gives a very accurate match in a wide array of conditions, with a very small margin of error, as I've spent countless hours studying both the Alexa sensor and the Alexa LUT in a unique way they work in tandem to create the Alexa look. So how did I do it? Well, I've done this a few times before with other cameras, and as such I've developed a robust and thorough method to do so. It's roughly broken down into 4 steps. Step 1. Define the Alexa look. Step 1 is always to define your target. So which Arri LUT do you actually want to emulate? See, what most people don't realize is that Arri doesn't just have one Rec 709 LUT. They have two kinds. There's the classic Alexa 709 LUT, and then there's the newer Arri 709 LUT. When you shoot with an Arri, both are typically loaded in camera, but I've never actually heard anyone talk about what sets them apart. As you can see here, the main differences between them affect skin tones and contrast. The skin with the Alexa LUT is rendered slightly more red and a little brighter than the Arri LUT, which by comparison is darker, less saturated, and slightly more yellowish green. Also, the Alexa LUT has slightly less contrast with a softer roll-off and fall-off when compared to the Arri LUT. There are perks to both, but personally I prefer the skin tones of the classic Alexa LUT, which appear more filmic to me, and so I use it as my main target for the emulation. Step 2. Replicate the gamma curve. The next step is to replicate the Alexa gamma curve, which completely defines the contrast characteristics of the Alexa LUT. The Alexa image is often associated with words like organic, smooth, or filmic due to its gentle and naturalistic look, and this is largely due to the elegant design of the gamma curve. To me, this curve is the unsung hero of the look and serves as the backbone and foundation of the LUT. It also controls the highlight roll-off into white and the fall-off into black. So getting it right is super important as a first step in the build. My LUT places middle grey at 40 IRE, just like the Alexa LUT, as you can see here in Ben Turley's LUT Calc app. And the general sweep of the curve is practically identical between both LUTs, even down to the 10-bit values. Underexposing the Alexa is popular with cinematographers, as the fall off into the shadows is very smooth and filmic, and it's a technique I'm finding works really nicely with the A7S III in this LUT due to the replicated gamma curve, and also the super impressive noise floor of the A7S III sensor. Achieving cinematic Alexa-like images is now within reach, and it's so nice to not have to overexpose with S-Log anymore. Very exciting stuff. Step 3. Tint, color, and saturation profile. This is the natural next step after we've got the gamma curve set, and is the most grueling in terms of time and attention. I always start by matching the white balance of my LUT to the Alexa's, so that's tint, temperature, and hue characteristics, which sit globally underneath all of the individual expressions of color and tone. If you get them wrong, your LUT will never look right. It'd be like building the foundation of your house on a crooked angle. If it's off, everything else in the house will be crooked as well. After that, I start matching the colors and saturation profile as close as I can to the Alexa's. This is where it helps that I own an Arri camera myself. I'm obsessed with analysing what makes it look the way it does, and as such I'm very familiar with the unique way its sensor sees the world, which isn't really very straightforward or simple. For example, with the Arri, as luminance or brightness increases, colour saturation freezes and ultimately diminishes as we approach white, resulting in a very filmic colour response and highlight roll-off. Another interesting quirk is the way that greens saturate in a non-linear way. If you take a look at the vector scope here, you can see how greens will literally curl yellow as they become more saturated, and this results in a very rich and complex rendering of greenery in daytime exteriors. Then when it comes to skin tones, I could make an entire video on the filmic way that the Arri sensor renders them, especially in the shadows. But I think you get the idea, this is not a surface level emulation. All of this complexity and more has been modelled into my LUT, and this rich and layered colour response will really elevate the look of your A7S III footage. And you'll enjoy shooting more with it too. I get messages all the time from users explaining how much more they enjoy shooting when everything looks like an Alexa on their field monitor. Step 4. Real world footage. The last step is to take the LUT and actually test it out on footage from real world shoots. It's very important to give the LUT as much of a workout as possible on a wide array of real world test footage to look for any weak spots or glitches. Once the LUT is working across all 4 steps of development, I know it's ready. So, how did the LUT perform out in the real world? Well, let's take a look.